In this episode of OG55, we have a very special guest with us today, Kaitlyn, and we also have Slimer. We're all going to talk about Walt Disney World, which park is better during the summertime. We might dip into some Tiana. We have a lot of topics today, all centered around the Walt Disney World Resort. Up next on OG55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. We have a very special guest with us today. We also have Slimer with us today. Before we dive into our topics at hand, centered around Walt Disney World, Kaitlyn, first time on the channel. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, us too. Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. If you can just let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, it's pretty simple to find me. All social media is just my name, Kaitlyn Aurelio. Last name is Aurilio. It's Italian, so it's a little confusing.
Oh, Italian. Okay, nice. You have something in common with myself, and then we have another contributor on the channel, George. He's actually called the Italiano on the show, so he leans hard and yeah, he's awesome. We love George. He's on vacation right now. He's gonna be back pretty soon, but very good to have you on, Kaitlyn. Appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we have Slimer over here. Slimer, welcome back, sir. It's good to see you.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be back.
If you could let everybody home know where they could find you on social media, sir.
Yeah, so you can find me right here in the Grove, Orange Grove 55, and you can also find me on X at Slime Square 84.
There we go. And Kaitlyn, we actually have a special drop for Slimer. Should I play with the Slimer drop? I think we should play the Slimer drop.
Yeah, play with the Slimer drop.
Here we go.
And all these dollars got commas that come with commas behind them. And all my slammers be slamming. And all my slammers be slamming. And all my slammers be slamming. And all my slammers be slamming.
There you go.
That's so funny.
It's Slimer's drop. It's Slimer's drop. Pretty awesome. We haven't played it in a while, so it's good to bring it back. But let's dive into our topics today. We're going to talk first. We're going to talk a little bit about Kaitlyn. Kind of introduce yourself and kind of how you got into like Disney and like theme parks and what have you. Are you a big fan? Or are you kind of like more like a casual fan? Kind of dip into that first.
So I live in Gainesville, Florida. I've been an annual pass holder since I was 5 years old. So my family, we're like pretty big Disney fans. When I was homeschooled, we would go every Monday. Like that was our day off school. Every single Monday we'd go. Like we have traditions where we spend Halloween at Fort Wilderness campgrounds. So I would say our family's like pretty big into Disney. Definitely more of the uber fan rather than a casual fan.
Nice. Actually, that kind of reminds me a lot of my family as well, but I'm on the West Coast. I'm in Disneyland, the Disneyland area. But we used to do the same thing when I was little. We'd go to like Disneyland like every year, like on our birthdays and stuff. But that's really cool, Kaitlyn. So you're a big time Disney fan. But do you also dip into some of the other theme parks like Universal and I think what do you guys have out there like Busch Gardens, stuff like that?
Yeah, so I'm a Universal like pass holder as well. My friend works there, so she gets like the annual pass holder basically for free. So I kind of just go along with her whenever she wants to take me, and then I can just go whenever I want as well. I used to also have one at Busch Gardens, but when you have all three, I found myself just picking Disney over all of them. And with Busch Gardens being even farther away from me than Disney, it wasn't worth having the ticket.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. I'm kind of the same way a little bit, like because I have the Disney pass, I have a Universal pass, and I also have we have like a park out here called Knott's Berry Farm, which is like a local regional kind of park. I've only been to Knott's, I think, twice since I've had that pass, and I've had it since like October, so it's been a while since I've been back. But Disney, I definitely go the most. Universal Studios Hollywood, it's like second to Disney. Like I go there like once every couple of months or so. But yeah, Disney though, I definitely go the most out of all those. So I completely understand what you're saying. But let's dip into these topics. Now, Kaitlyn, and then I'll go to you, Slimer. What are like the parks like in summer of 2024, and how do you think it differs from prior years? So like you've been going to Disney and the parks and everything this summer, or like May and into June. How has it differed in terms of your experience from like previous years that you've been to the parks?
Yeah, I've gone, I think, 4 or 5 times so far this summer, and like Gainesville and like Orlando, just Florida in general, they're in like a heat dome right now, so that's making the parks extremely hot. So that's one thing I've noticed. Like it typically takes till like end of June, beginning of July, I think, for people to really experience the heat at the parks, to where maybe they only last a couple hours. And I was at Disney on Saturday, and it was like people were sweating by 9 a.m. because it was already 100 degrees. So it's like I'm noticing like just the parks are insanely hot right now, but the amount of people that are coming have increased every summer. And this summer, like I went on a weekday a couple weeks ago, I think it was a Wednesday, and it was completely slammed. Like you were shoulder to shoulder walking around Epcot, which I've never experienced before. Usually, especially a weekday, it's pretty chill. But I think with TikTok and just everything going viral, people giving tips and tricks for the parks, it's making people want to go more and more often. So I think with the rise of social media, it's increased how many people go to the parks during the summer.
That's interesting that you say that, Kaitlyn, because I mentioned our friend, the Italiano. He's actually out here. He's from Pennsylvania, but he's actually out here in California right now for like a week and a half or something like that. And I've been with him to the parks a few of the days that he's been out here. We've been to Disneyland and California Adventure. And we've been noticing it's been packed over here, like unusually busy, and it's been kind of crazy. Slimer, you been to the parks recently at Walt Disney World?
It's been a couple of months since I've been to the parks, but we're going to be going with George. Actually, next month, we're going to go to Walt Disney World. We're also going to go check out the new Sensational Symphony, which that, by the way, looks pretty awesome. If you haven't watched the videos that are online right now, it looks like a really good show. It has a lot of potential. It's huge, like in terms of the width of the show. And then the water jets that they put in go really high, but not to get sidetracked. Kayla and I are actually going to be going to Busch Gardens this Saturday with Mrs. Slimer. And so I'm going to have a better idea of what that's going to be like. But yeah, she's absolutely right. We're in a heat dome right now. Right now, you can walk outside at 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and you're already sweating because of the heat humidity. And so I think that parks are definitely a lot more challenging this summer versus prior summers because the heat is just so it's just like so intolerable. And so I'm really interested to see how parks are going to accommodate for heat advisories and the additional heat that we're experiencing this year versus last year, because in May, usually it's about 90 something. June, same thing, but we're already getting heat temperatures in the 100. And with that, I'm kind of concerned with what that experience is going to look like going forward, because we're not even the hottest part of the summer yet.
That's interesting. Go ahead, Kaitlyn.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So I was at Universal on Sunday, and it got to 105. And they had to actually shut down the Hulk because it was too hot for people to go on. And then I went on Hagrid's. And, usually when you go on a roller coaster that's like outside, it's like refreshing with the like going super fast. We were all dripping sweat after getting off Hagrid's because it felt like we went through a sauna for the entire ride. So everyone got off the ride and you could see like we were dripping sweat. And that was at, 11 a.m. So that wasn't even like peak heat of the day.
What?
That's crazy.
And that's crazy to me. So I have only been to Florida once, and that was last summer. It's been almost a year, actually. It was the end of July that we went. Okay. So it was the end of July, like early August, actually, that we stayed there. It was like out here in California, like we get hot. We'll get like over 100, like we'll get like 105, we'll get hot out here, but we don't have like the humidity like you guys do. So it was a different experience for me out there with that heat and the wetness. Everything was like wet, and then you're like just walking like randomly. It starts to rain, like pouring rain.
Yeah.
And it's still hot though. It's crazy stuff. Like we don't even get rain out here in California. I mean, the past year or two we have, but usually we go a long time without any kind of rain. But that's interesting that you guys are, it's hotter this summer than it has been in previous summers, because based on my experience last summer, that was even kind of like borderline intolerable. So I can't even imagine what this heat dome feels like. And like you were saying, Kaitlyn, it hasn't really deterred many people. It's still pretty packed.
It's packed, but I will say Universal and Disney, everyone looks absolutely miserable. Like they just look like they're having the worst time. And especially the people that aren't from Florida, like you can just tell they are not used to this heat.
Yeah.
Like when I was at Disney, everyone was trying to find shade, the insides were completely packed. No one was trying to be outside and they were just like exhausted. So I don't see many people going in July after seeing, because people are posting videos of it on TikTok, just how hot and miserable it is. So I'm hoping that'll like deter people away, just because with the heat dome and then that many people all together, it's just like the worst combination.
Well, and it's also a safety issue to a big degree, because you have people, like you were saying, Kaitlyn, who are coming here from other states, even other countries, who are not used to that level of heat and humidity. And you go into that situation and like what normally keeps you hydrated might not be enough for the Florida heat dome,
Especially people drinking around the world, like doing that in this heat. So many people did that. I'm like, there's just no way in this heat that people should be playing that game.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because that people think like, oh, I'm drinking though. Well, yeah, but it's alcohol. It's you're not really hydrating.
But there's ice in it.
There's ice in it. Yeah, exactly. There's ice in it. So that's interesting. So Kaitlyn, what are some of your favorite parks out there at Walt Disney World? Like, or your favorite park?
Epcot and Hollywood Studios are my two favorites. I pretty much go to those every single time I go there. You will never catch me going to Magic unless I'm taking a friend or like family member who like hasn't been in years. Just because every time I go, I just feel like I'm miserable. There's just way too much going on at Magic. But Epcot, I absolutely love Guardians of the Galaxy. Like that's kind of been my current obsession. So I've been really loving going there. And then Hollywood, I'm obsessed with Star Wars. So just being able to walk throughout the little Star Wars area is always fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a little Star Wars drop. I got Chewie. I got a bunch here. I actually got a lightsaber. I got a bunch.
Nice.
But no, that's awesome. And actually, Hollywood Studios was actually going into the trip that I went last summer. I was like, oh, Hollywood Studios is going to be like my least favorite.
Oh,
it
wow.
wasn't. I loved it. I was really surprised. I thought it was better than Magic Kingdom. Actually, I got back and I'm like, this is way better than Magic Kingdom. And I actually gave it really high marks. I thought it was really fun. So it's interesting how your perception can change, because I've seen a lot of video and pictures of Hollywood Studios, and I went into it thinking, oh, it'll be my least favorite. And when I actually experienced it, I actually really liked it. So there's Mrs. Slimer. Hey, Mrs. Slimer.
She did. So Mrs. Slimer just came in from walking the dogs. We actually adopted another dog this week. Didn't plan on it. It just came on our doorstep and we figured, well, this is a nice looking dog. Nobody wants it. So we adopted it.
That is awesome. Well, we're dog people too. I mean, dogs are just amazing. I mean, you can never have too many dogs, So how many do you have now?
We have two.
You have two now. Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any pets, Kaitlyn?
No, I travel too much. I would be a really bad pet owner if I took on a dog right now.
See, we're like LA dog owners though. Like I have a stroller for my dog. Like we're super LA about it. It's kind of funny. But so Hollywood and Epcot are your two favorites, right? So so Magic, not really. What about Animal Kingdom though? Is that like up there, or is that like not really?
I love Animal Kingdom. I feel like it would honestly probably be my favorite, which I know most people would not say that. I just don't ever go because none of my friends want to go. Like they just do not like Animal Kingdom. They think it's boring. I love it. Like I love the safari area. Like I love Avatar. I just think it's a really like peaceful park. And that was where I grew up going. Like that was my mom's favorite. So I think it's very nostalgic. Like I just love doing all the fun little rides on there. I mean, I know they're getting rid of like the Dinoland area. They're renovating that, but that was where me and my brothers would be at the entire time we were at Animal Kingdom. So I just think it reminds me of my childhood when I go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That actually is my favorite out of all of them. I love Animal Kingdom because I'm like kind of like a low key when I do theme parks, like even out here at California, like Disneyland and stuff. I'm just kind of like an atmosphere guy. Like I can just like I'm just glad I'm there. I can walk around, sit on a bench, have a beer, to hang out. That's cool for me. I love that. And Animal Kingdom is like built for that. It's a very chill kind of vibe, except in the summer though. I will say, we'll talk about this, but in the summer though, the heat and the humidity is a whole nother level in Animal Kingdom. And that's kind of a little bit of an issue for that park. Yeah. But what about you, Slimer? What are some of your favorite or your favorite park at Walt Disney World?
Walt Disney World, it's got to be Epcot and Hollywood Studios, and those are kind of interchangeable. It's just depending on what festival they have going on at Epcot and what the crowds look like at Hollywood Studios. If it's a low crowd day at Hollywood Studios and I can just bounce from ride to ride and the vibes feel good, Hollywood Studios is kind of hard to beat, especially if you stay at night. If you can catch the whole Twilight Zone Tower of Terror at night and get that whole like Hollywood Boulevard vibe, it's really fun. It's kind of hard to beat, and even Epcot's best nighttime vibes kind of rival what Hollywood Studios has going on, and even the Star Wars land. But Epcot, going to the I want to kind of like go into the heat and what's going on with the parks, but there's been a lot of announcements of DVCs and annual pass holder lounges. Let me reverse that. DVC lounges, annual pass holder lounges. We got a new one in the Morocco Pavilion. We have a new DVC lounge, which was just announced to replace the shooting gallery in Frontierland at Magic Kingdom. And now we have this new Communicore Plaza, which was revealed as a rest area for the summer. I think that was a good move, even though they didn't showcase it at its like best. I think it's a necessary for the kind of heat that we're experiencing right now. Now, here's the funny thing is that when you're there, you're like, man, I wish they had more rest areas and air conditioning so I can just like sit, catch my breath, kind of, cool down for a little bit so that way I can continue to go. But then online, everybody complains about the fact it's like, wow, I can't believe they're opening up a new DVC lounge or annual pass holder lounge. And I'm guilty of that myself. Like when they announced that they were replacing the shooting gallery with a DVC lounge, I was just like, are you kidding me? Like this is where you guys decide to put it. But I can almost guarantee you that when you're there and you pass it, you're going to go, thank God this is here. Cause I need to take a load off and I just need to cool down and bring the temperature down for a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Is this something that we should just expect moving forward as the summers get hotter in Florida? Do you think we're going to start seeing, just evergreen attractions turned into cool down spots? Is that going to be normalized?
It's interesting you bring that up, Slimer. So in regards to it's a Communicore Hall, right? Is the official name of it? Mm-hmm. I understand. A lot of people on like Twitter and social media, they're really coming down hard on this thing. Here's my overall take on it. It's a flex space for festivals and things like that, from what I understand, right? Like, so they're going to have special events and everything in there. So there's only so much like theming you can do in a flex space, because if you theme it too much, you want to have that versatility where you can put anything in there and it works. You know what I'm saying? So you can't really go too hard on the theming. Now, I think it looks good enough. I think it looks pretty cool. The thing is too, we have to understand though, and it could have been better, absolutely. But the thing that we also have to remember though, is that the stuff that we're seeing today is not necessarily indicative of the current situation at Disney or Imagineering. And what I mean by that is like people that are disappointed with the Communicore Hall, it's more of a Chapek era thing that's just now opening. That was residual Chapek. And actually even residual Barbara Boza with Imagineering. Now she's gone, mm-hmm. And she, from Gensler. So yes, I could see why people are like disappointed. It could have been a little better. Maybe it could have been. But I do think that things are going to improve overall with the parks, because look, I know people don't like Bob Iger, but under Bob Iger the first time, we got Pandora, we got Cars Land out here in California. We got some good stuff. You know what I'm saying? So clearly Bob Iger knows how to sort of juggle the financials with the creative and make something work. He's done it like a lot prior to the pandemic. This stuff we're seeing, like the Community Core Hall and even a lot of these other Epcot elements that a lot of people aren't loving, that was very much a Bob Chapek era thing. So I think we need to be a little patient and see what we have coming out in the future, a few years going forward. So what do you think, Kaitlyn? What are your thoughts on this in terms of like these spaces being converted into like little lounges and things like that? Are you kind of like upset about it or not so much?
So I've actually been to the one in Morocco and it was terrible. So I kind of agree with the people. Like, it's very unorganized. So where they have you stand, you have to get into a line to then get into a virtual queue, and there's no shade anywhere. So when we went, we stood in line for an hour to then get in the virtual queue, and they have it shut, so you don't even know like like what it looks like. So I had no idea. I was expecting it to look incredible. So then we're in the virtual queue. We then have like another 2 hours. So they let you walk around, kind of do what you want. So, we rode some rides, came back. When you walked in, it was just tables and you could get cups of water that you could get anywhere. And then they had tiny little trail mix. And that was it. It was not themed whatsoever. And then you could take a photo. I forget who they had. I think it was Goofy. You could take a photo with Goofy. But then there was a massive line for that. So I was like, we did not just wait a total of 3 hours to come in to get like tiny cups of water. And that was it. And all the seats were taken. So then we ended up having to stand. And it wasn't actually that cold in there because they were leaving the doors all the way open. So I could tell everyone, I think, was just like very underwhelmed. I mean, it could be good. I think if they were a lot more organized with the whole virtual queue and just making sure people had shade. Because I mean, really, so for the virtual queue, they text you to come back. Well, they don't tell you there's then another line to wait in. So then we stood in that line to then get in for another 30 minutes. And that was in direct sun around like 2 p.m. So it's like everyone's now drenched in sweat. So yeah, it was like a very underwhelming experience. So I personally don't love them, but I think it could be really cool and useful if they made it much more efficient. And, you're an annual pass holder, you're spending a lot of money. When I walked in there, I was like, there's no way, like, I'm paying this much money for them to say, like, this is worth an annual pass holder lounge. It was almost like kind of a slap in the face, like you would get more water at any of the concession stands.
That's crazy. And you said that's the one in Morocco?
Yeah.
See, something's going on with the Morocco area because they recently ripped out all that beautiful tile, right? That was commissioned by the king of.
So upset. Yeah.
So upset, right? And they put it like kind of generic looking tile in there. Yep. I don't know. I think there's something going on with that. Like maybe they're thinking about replacing that whole pavilion with something else or something. I'm not really sure. It just seems kind of weird. Some weirdness is happening. But what are your thoughts on that, Slimer? On what Kaitlyn's saying here?
It's not much different than the annual pass lounge experience that I had last year when they opened it up in the land pavilion right next to the Garden Grill. You had to wait in line, and the funny thing is the line actually was where everybody crowds in Garden Grill. So if you've ever been there, you just have a mass of people moving around the interior of the building because they're all trying to find a place to sit because there's a restaurant in there, a cafeteria, and it was nothing but tables and somebody handing out cups of water and almost expired M&Ms. And I was just like, and if I could go anywhere for this.
Yeah, and if they're peanut M&Ms, you gotta be careful about that expiration date because peanuts will make you sick, dude.
Yeah, exactly, dude. So I was really underwhelmed. Like, I made fun of it, actually. I mean, I think everybody there was just like, are you serious? Like, this is the annual pass holder lounge? And if you go to the AP lounge over at Universal Studios, it's far superior. So, like, I don't know why Disney can't get a lock on this. But Universal Studios has handled this situation so well. There's no lines to get in. You walk in. They have Coca-Cola refreshments in there because they're usually sponsored by Coca-Cola. At least the one on Hollywood Boulevard is sponsored by Coca-Cola Universal Studios. They also do like special pin trading. They also have coins that you can get at the Universal Pass Holder Lounge that they don't have at the Disney Lounge. But one thing that I find interesting is that there's certainly a demand for pass holder lounges because of the heat. So it's like out of necessity, people are looking for shade that aren't in gift shops or in lines and rides. They want to do something. They want to go somewhere that's neutral, that has water and other refreshments that they can charge their phones at. But Disney World does not have a space for it. And what really perplexes me is Imagineering's inability to like grab that idea and actualize it into actual, the implementation of construction. For example, Communal Core Plaza just opened up. They have that new Making Friends Greet, and the line is outside. They've provided some umbrellas, but the line to get into the building to do the meet and greet is pretty much in the direct sunlight. And like, as a Floridian, and Kaitlyn will tell you, somebody from California came up with that idea.
Oh,
Because
dude,
a
absolutely.
Floridian would say, well, of course you stand in line inside the building, not outside underneath some umbrellas,
Well,
So there's a
the issue.
disconnect there.
Oh, absolutely, and that's the issue we've been having a lot with Imagineering in general. In that they do have either a bias for Disneyland or some other thing, something else is going on, or maybe they're just all from California, so they don't really understand the Florida dynamic. But this isn't the first time this has happened with this. Like they even Toy Story Land, I remember fans were complaining about the lack of shade over there.
Yes.
And it's like, it's weird to me that we've been in Florida. Well, Disney's been in Florida since 1971. You can't crack this code. It's not that complicated. You know what I'm saying? It's a little weird. So I think it is very much like a Glendale thing. And they're just sort of, they're taking the California sort of dynamic and they're just applying it to Florida. And you can't do that. It's totally different. It's completely different. So what do you think? Slimer, then I'll go to Kaitlyn. What do you think of this? You touched upon that shooting gallery being turned into a DVC. What are your thoughts on that? Then I'll go to Kaitlyn and get her.
Yeah. So here's my thoughts on the DVC lounge. DVC members, congratulations. You guys are getting another lounge. Go ahead and give yourself a slow applause. Here's my opinion on that. You wouldn't build one in Pandora, so why would you build one smack dab in the middle of Frontierland? It takes you out of the immersion. It takes you out of the theming. And the shooting gallery, for me, this is my own anecdotal evidence. It's always been a spot that I like to waste 5 minutes at when I'm in Frontierland. It just adds to the aesthetic. Is it a relic of the 1950s? Yeah, sure, but that's what people did in the frontiers. They shot rifles, Sure. And so it adds that element of what it was like, even if it was, even if it's safe and it's child's toys and blah blah blah. But it's a really cool thing. Like the shooting gallery was very popular in the 1950s. So I'm not happy about it. If they wanted to go, like, let's say removing the shooting gallery was a political thing. There's other things they could have done other than putting in a DVC lounge. I feel like a DVC lounge was just low hanging fruit. And they said, hey, can we put but again, like devil's advocate, it's getting hotter in the summers in Florida. So like, is this is the health and safety team making these decisions and overriding any sort of like Imagineering ideas and saying, hey, look, we need more interior rest spots. So that way we don't have heat exhaustions and create all these liability for ourselves as it just gets hotter and hotter every summer. I don't know. Like, I don't know the answer to that, but with as many of these indoor rest spots that they're having or creating, it just seems to me that they're receiving some health advice, and probably from the legal team as well, saying, hey, like, guys, like, you guys need more rest areas, even if it's at the even if that's at the detriment of lands, because they didn't think about it ahead of time, and now they have to implement these low budget, low risk indoor areas, even if they're, like in Morocco, even if they're not great, just so somebody can sit down and lower their temperature a little bit.
Yeah, that's crazy. What do you think, Kaitlyn, in regards to that shooting gallery situation, DVC?
I'm like personally annoyed by it. I think they're forgetting their fans that have been there for so long. So, I've been going since I was 5. My dad's been going since they first opened. So it's kind of like people that have like been going for so many years, and you just see them taking away so much of the original parts of Disney, I think is like sad. And I think they're just trying to push something too much. And I think with all the resting spots, none of them are good. So I think they should try and work on making those efficient and better before they start opening new ones, because they feel a little cheap to me. And since I spent a lot of money at Disney, I have one of the higher passes. I don't like seeing them cheap out on certain things. So when they take something away like that, I thought that was a really fun part of Frontierland. I love how they theme the different lands. And so when they're starting to take that away, it just takes away from the overall experience of like each land. So I think it's like a good idea in theory, but I think they should first look at how can they create shade or even bring in the mist fans to certain areas of the parks rather than taking out like an entire attraction or activity to then add a cheap looking rest area.
Yeah, no, well said, well said. I get like what you're saying, Kaitlyn, like in theory. I understand the why of it. I understand like, okay, and like you touched upon Slimer, like it's an outdated kind of concept, the shooting gallery, maybe like more 1950s style. I get why they would target something like that and be like, hey, it's outdated, we're gonna change it, right? But but the replacement is not it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my issue more than anything is like put something else in there that's like some sort of activity. I mean, even a gift shop or something. I mean, almost anything would be better than what they're putting in there, and that's my biggest issue. And yeah, it's sad. It really is. Do we have a timeline, Slimer, as to when this thing is going to close up and get transformed into this lounge?
They did release a time or a day that it was going to close. I just don't have that information with me, but it is going to be soon.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, and the thing too is the DVC lounges are very exclusive, right? And it's like so only a handful of people can kind of enjoy them, So I don't know. It's the replacement that makes me more mad than anything. Out here in California, our shooting gallery isn't super popular. We don't really have a whole lot of people there at any given time. I don't know. Is it kind of more popular over there, Slimer, than it is? Like, do you guys have like more activity at the shooting gallery, or is it pretty like?
It depends on the day. I mean, I've been to the shooting gallery where there's lines to get on a gun, and I've been by the shooting gallery where there's nobody on it. So I think it just really depends on maybe the heat, how busy it is, but it can be very popular. It can be very unpopular.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, now not too far from Frontierland, or actually in Frontierland, they just rethemed Splash Mountain into Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Now, Slimer and I have talked about this a lot on the channel, a lot. But Kaitlyn, it's your first time on the channel, so I know you haven't been on it yet, but what are your overall thoughts as to what you've seen and heard so far of the retheme?
So I'm personally really sad about it. Splash Mountain was actually my favorite in all of Magic. I just loved that ride. So I was really sad when they got rid of it just because, I grew up going on it. But based off what I've heard online, it's been pretty negative reviews, just saying the storyline just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And so I was kind of like, preparing myself to not like it. But I have a lot of friends that are cast members, and so they got to go on it early, and they all came back telling me that they loved it. They said, the storyline is a little iffy, but just the way that they created the ride, it's done very well. And you can tell the Imagineers put a lot of effort into it. So they said they were impressed with that aspect of the ride. And they said it did remind them a lot of Splash Mountain, like the actual, big drop going in throughout the entire ride. They said that's all pretty much same. It's just the visuals. And so going from Tiana's storyline, which is not quite as crazy, I think that's also just such a drastic change from what it used to be to hers.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I haven't been on it either. I haven't gone out there and been on it. Our Tiana's doesn't open for a while. I don't think ours is ours is rumored to open like in November or something like that. They started ours later. But from what I've seen on like video and stuff like that, it looks cool. It looks cool. But again, you have to experience this stuff, because I saw videos and pictures of Hollywood Studios, and I thought it was going to be my least favorite park. It ended up being way higher than that, and it scored higher for me than Magic Kingdom. So, but that's interesting though, Kaitlyn, that you mentioned the cast members, that the people that are actually riding this stuff, this attraction, is actually coming back and liking it. Because you're right. I mean, I'm on social media. I'm on X or Twitter, and I watch videos here on YouTube and stuff, and it's vastly it's very, very negative for the most part. And that's interesting that the cast members were coming back saying, hey, this is actually pretty cool. So that's actually really encouraging. And I do think this attraction, I think with the normies, is going to score really high. I think the normies are going to love it. They're going to take their kid on it. The kids are just going to want to see Tiana and the alligator, and they'll be happy. They'll be fine. And that's really what it's all about anyway at the end of the day. So I think it'll be okay. What do you think, Slimer? Any thoughts on what Kaitlyn was saying in regard to the cast members and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. It just goes to show, don't knock it until you try it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. You got to go and experience it yourself and see if it works in person or not, you know?
Yeah, you can't decide if you like a movie based off of the movie trailer. Kaitlyn, do you think that the normies are going to embrace this like as if like Splash Mountain just came and went? Like, do you think 80% of the, and I'm not trying to like give you the answer, right? Like, so let me ask you this. How do you think the normies are going to respond to this versus hardcore old school Disney fans?
Oh, I think the normies are going to love it. Yeah, I think a lot of them have already forgotten about Splash Mountain because I've asked, a lot of my like hardcore Disney fans, and we're all sad, like very sad. One of my close friends, she's like still upset that they got rid of it. Like she's refusing to go on Tiana's because she's just so upset that they would get rid of it. So I think the normies, they just don't have that passion that I think the hardcore Disney fans have. So to them, it's like, it's still a really fun ride. There's really no reason to be upset about it and like move forward.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, Kaitlyn. I actually said that in a recent video, like just like 2 or 3 videos ago. I was saying the same thing where it's like, I don't think the normies are as invested as a lot of the diehard fans are. A lot of diehard fans are like, oh, but zippity doo dah. Oh, but like, the America Sings animatronics. Oh, it's like, well, the normie doesn't care about any of that stuff. A lot of normies, like teenagers and, young people, they went on Splash Mountain for the drop. It had nothing to do with the music or any of that stuff. So they're going to go on Tiana's for the drop, just like they did before, and it's going to be business as usual. I don't think it matters as much, and I think you're right. I think it's going to be fine. I think that yes, the diehards are going to be upset over it, but at the end of the day, the normies are kind of like, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? So, well, what's your thought on that, Slimer, in terms of the normie aspect of it all?
Yeah, I think that
normie, and she says,
yeah. so Mrs. Slimer's like, my wife's a normie, and she says my wife is a total normie, and she could care less about Splash Mountain going away. And you know what?
F Splash Mountain.
Yeah, and my mom, who's been going to Disney World since 1971, she is a hardcore Disney veteran, but even though she's not a normie, she has a normie mentality because she's not married to these attractions, because she has been experiencing them changing so often. I mean, she's been going since the park opened. So, for her, it's just rides are here one day, gone the next, and she was very optimistic about the ride being changed out. She loves Splash Mountain, but she also understands why it's being changed out due to the outdated animatronics. And even though it has like the quintessential Magic Kingdom theme song, which again I feel should be incorporated into Disney World some way or another, like that song should never leave the park. I can understand why somebody like her can say, well, I'm fine with them updating the attraction, because here's the thing, she goes to Pandora and she's completely blown away by what they're able to do with projection mapping and new lighting techniques and the new A1000 animatronics. And for a lot of guests, that's more important than the nostalgia they're going to get based off of a ride that they've only rode once, maybe when they were 12, and they don't even remember,
Right. No, exactly. And I think too, the theme is close enough to Splash that it's not a very jarring change. And what I mean by that is, like, when you go on Tiana's, it's a lot of animals and critters and cute little fuzzy like bears and things like that. Well, I mean, that's not too different than what Splash Mountain was, different style animals and all that, but the same general idea with like the critters and everything. So it's not a vastly different thing, whereas opposed to like here in California, we had the Hollywood Tower Hotel over at California Adventure that got swapped out, rethemed into Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. You couldn't get more different than those two attractions. Hollywood Tower of Terror was a slow buildup. It pent up tension the whole way through. And Guardians is like this fun, frantic, chaotic kind of vibe with like pop music and stuff. And it was completely different. I mean, drastically different. polar opposite. Where Tiana's and Splash is you're not getting that level of change here. You know what I'm saying? It's a little it's similar enough where I think it eases you into it, so to speak. You know, so it's interesting. We'll see. Florida's version opens June 28th, I think.
Yep, June 28th.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it's June, what is it now? 13th? It's getting up there. It's getting up there. Now, before we move on to our next topic, which is D23, what do you guys think is happening? Like, what do you think? Because we've been having a lot of technical issues with this attraction and its, its previews and all that, right? Slimer, you think they're going to get this sorted before the 28th, or are we kind of getting a little bit close here?
I hope so. Kaitlyn, CMs that work there, put a little bird in their ear and ask them how today went, because today was the first annual pass holder day. And from what I heard, there was delays after delays just to get the APs on. I heard it's running better, but yeah, they have a week to get this thing right, basically. And it's going to be running close.
One of my friends, he's an engineer there. And so he was saying, they're pushing the agenda of, we have to be open by this date, even if it's not ready. And so I think you see in Hollywood, Star Wars is still messing up. And he was just saying, he's they forced it. And he said, so we are constantly having to work on it, but they're refusing to close it down for even a month or so they can have that, uninterrupted time to work on it. So he said they are so obsessed with the current date that they put out there of this is when it'll be released, that they're forcing them to rush it. And then they're having to now work backwards. So I think it's going to be a while till it's fully, I think, complete. I think there'll be quite a few issues come the release date.
Well, it's so funny you mentioned that, because we recently had Drew the Disney dude on, and he even said that operations was rushing the Imagineers to get it done by a certain day because they wanted to have it open at a certain time of the year. So that just confirms exactly what your friend is saying there, is that operations is forcing Imagineers. Imagineers is saying, no, it's not ready yet. Let it bake a little bit longer. It needs to sit in the oven a little bit. But yeah, I mean, that's not anything new. That's par for the course. These guys have to open these attractions during deadlines, because right now it's summertime and they got to get this ride open before. I mean, look, you have the end of June, you have July, and then starting right at the beginning of August, you have Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. And by then it's too late. So they only really have a whole solid summer month to run this bad boy before everything switches over to Mickey's Not So Scary mode. And by then, they're on to a different thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be really, really crazy. Yeah. And that's the thing too, Kaitlyn, you bring up a good point where it's your friend, the engineer, was saying they won't let us just shut it down for a month and just fix it. That's frustrating, because it's that's so frustrating, because it's you end up delaying stuff more by doing it this way. Just rip the Band-Aid off, take 2 or 3 weeks or a month or whatever you need, fix it, and then you're good. But by doing this thing where you're not ever really committing to the closure, it's now you're kicking the can down the road, and now you have now the problems are going on for longer than they have to go for. You know what I'm saying? It drives me nuts. Out here in California, we're going to have an issue coming up pretty soon here. I think in July, this whole end of the park, because we have Splash Mountain and we have our Haunted Mansion right next door to it. And because we have a New Orleans area, right? And Splash Mountain kind of butts up against this New Orleans area. I believe that our Splash Mountain now, Tiana's, will kind of get merged into New Orleans Square, because it makes sense with the Tiana stuff. But we got stuff going on with Haunted Mansion and Tiana's right now. They're going to close that whole back end of the park, the whole side of the park, in a month. And it's gonna be down for a little while, and it's that's crazy, It's I don't know. I don't even know how they're gonna do that. Have you been to Disneyland in California, Kaitlyn?
No, I'm actually going next week. I'm leaving on Wednesday, and I'll be in California for an entire week. So we're gonna do Disneyland and Universal while we're there.
Oh, nice. Oh, you'll love it. You'll absolutely. Disneyland is it's smaller than any of the Disney World parks, but we have a ton of attractions. I mean,
that's
the most of any Disney park.
I have friends that work there, so they're getting us in, and then friends at Universal there. So I feel spoiled. I'm we kind of have the inside scoop of how we should do it and try to finesse the system.
I think you'll really enjoy it. Indiana Jones is an incredible ride. Incredible. Absolutely, absolutely
I've heard
insane.
very good things about that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. So we'll see. We'll see. Now, I want to talk a little bit before we go. I want to talk about D23 and specifically more on the Walt Disney World side. Kaitlyn, what are your thoughts on D23 coming up in August? What could they possibly announce for this fan event for Walt Disney World? What do you think is the likely thing? Is Josh D'Amaro going to get up there and give us some good stuff, or is he going to kind of disappoint us again?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't even really pay attention to them anymore. So I have no idea. I think because last year I was just like, wow, this was just so underwhelming.
Yeah.
And I kind of just checked out. So I'm gonna be honest, I'll need to listen to what you guys say because I don't know a whole lot of like what to expect or what you think is gonna happen with D23.
Yeah. No, last D23 he gave us a bunch of like Josh D'Amaro, he gave us a bunch of like, well, Beyond Big Thunder, right? And we have ideas. What could possibly go back there? Maybe a villain's land, maybe not, you know? Very maybe what if, coulda, shoulda stuff. Very fairy tale.
How many more fairy tale stories about your life?
Fairy tale stories, basically. It is all this stuff about what we could do, but no commitment, right? So this time, I think Josh has to get up there. He has to give us something like concrete and say, look, you know what? This is coming to Animal Kingdom. We're getting the Tropical Americas for sure. You know, we're building this. These are the attractions, you know, this is coming to Magic Kingdom. Maybe it's a Coco thing or something like that. And it's for sure. He's got to give us like these concrete announcements. I think it's go time now for Josh, especially because he's on that short list. I said it so many times, but he's on that short list to be the next CEO. And if he wants that job, he's going to have to deliver at this expo. The last thing he wants right now, when he's in contention to be the next CEO, is a lot of fan drama and outrage over his expo performance. He's got to come through. So I don't know. I think we'll get the Tropical America stuff. We'll probably get some Beyond Big Thunder stuff from Magic Kingdom. Hopefully like a Coco thing or something cool. I'm not real big on this rumor of like Radiator Springs coming in there to Magic Kingdom. I don't care about the cloning so much. I just don't think that's a property that really fits Magic Kingdom. It's kind of a weird one for that park. Hopefully that's not what you guys are getting. Coco would fit beautifully, I think, in Magic Kingdom. If it's like kind of an extension of like a Frontierland or something like that, you know. But we'll see. I think those two things though, the Beyond Big Thunder, and I think that the Tropical Americas at Animal Kingdom are like the sure bets right now. What say you, Slimer? What do you think?
Yeah, those are the sure bets. Anything beyond that, he's going to have to deliver because he's saying it's going to be the biggest and the best one they've had since. So, like, whatever it is has to be the biggest and the best that they've ever done. So that means it has to top Star Wars, you know, two of them, you know, at the same time. Has to top Pandora. We'll see. Yeah, he's got to deliver. But Kaitlyn, let me ask you this: what do you think has to happen to the Magic Kingdom in order for it to move to? Obviously, by population, it's the number one park in the world. But for the old school Disney heads that have moved on from MK and, you know, are embracing Epcot, and, you know, Epcot's my park now. Like, I don't go to any other parks except for Epcot or Hollywood Studios for that matter. Like, what does Magic Kingdom need to do to get you to go back and say, man, I think this park's number one again, or at least a close number two?
I mean, for me, I'm really big on nostalgia. So if they were some way to like bring back something nostalgic, one of the older films, or, you know, I personally like the idea of Radiator Springs. I'm just a really big Cars fan. Now, I do agree with you that I think it doesn't necessarily fit Magic Kingdom, but even something like that where they have a trilogy to where it would make sense for them to bring that back to Magic, because, you know, I feel like adults only go if they have kids because it's boring. It's just a bunch of like little kid attractions. And I felt like they messed up on Tron. Like that could have been so much cooler than what it is. So I think they just really need to think in the mindset of like, what's going to make an adult want to stay here? Now with Epcot, you know, you have each country and adults love to drink. So I feel like if Magic even had a little adult area to where like, wow, you can have these fun themed cocktail drinks for this specific land, you know, or even making a station within each of the 4 lands already, where they can go there, enjoy themed drink, themed food. I think that could be appealing to people because, you know, adults love to just go around, try different foods and drinks. So I think if they didn't want to make a new, say, attraction, that would be a simple way, I think, to bring them back in.
Oh yeah, you can do like a haunted mansion bar, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
Disney does like those themed drinks really well. You know, like with Trader Sam's. I mean, I love Trader Sam's. I was just there actually like a few days ago with Jay Shear, Slimer. We were there with
Nice.
Jay. It was fun. Yeah, like with Trader Sam's, you can do a lot of stuff. Like even out here, we still have Toontown. I've said for a long time I would love to see the Ink and Paint Club come to Toontown, like from the movie. You know. That'd be a fun bar for adults or something like that. But that's a great idea, Kaitlyn. Bring some of those themed bars to Magic Kingdom because you're right. That would kind of. I think you're right. A lot of parents are kind of like, and for us diehards, we love it, you know. But like for the normies, they see it as kid stuff, you know. So put a few nice themed bars in there, and that might work. Absolutely. What do you think about that, Slimer?
Well, OG, it's so funny that she mentioned that because in a video I did a long time ago with you. I said the exact same thing, and Kaitlyn and I have never had this conversation where it's like, you know, if Walt Disney World really wanted to bring adults back to the Magic Kingdom, all they would have to do is open up about, you know, 3 or 4 themed bars, and boom, the adults will be there, full support, ready to hand out their money, man. Yeah. Well, look, you got the Pirate Tavern that's opening. All right, so they understand that that's something that has to come to Adventure.
Is that gonna have alcohol? By the way, I didn't know if that was like.
I'll tell you what, dude. If they open up a Pirate Tavern that does not serve alcohol, just get ready for riots.
I'm telling you, exactly. It has to have it. It has to have it. It has to have it.
And then a haunted mansion bar, and then throw in like, well, how come the Frontierland area doesn't have a saloon?
Yep.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Hollywood Studios, you can get the red bar trolley, you know? Just like a trolley with beers. Be great. It would be absolutely great. No, but there's endless potential with that stuff. There is. And a lot of fans are iffy about that. You know, like I know out here in California, like, oh, alcohol at Disneyland. It's like, I'm not super particular with that because I understand like Walt Disney didn't want it back in like the 50s, but it's like times do change, I think. Yeah. And mindsets and mentalities evolve. Back in the 50s, back in Wall Street, you could smoke anywhere. You could smoke in an elevator, and now you can't smoke anywhere. So things change. I think the mindset over drinking has changed as well. So I think it's perfectly fine. As long as the cast members, kind of rein it in, like you don't let people just get like blasted, you know what I'm saying? And I don't see much of that out here in California. Epcot's a little different. I do see some of the footage with people climbing the Mexico, the temple.
Yeah, the Chichen Itza pyramid.
Yeah, I've seen a few of the videos of that, but again, that's only like the far and few between. I'm sure it doesn't happen like too much, right?
Well, if you want to be on video one day, with your drunkenness and debauchery, just come hang out with us.
Okay, we'll do it. Let's do it. Now, I want to get back to Florida. I want to get back. We're trying to come down there again in summer of 2025 for Epic Universe. We're planning all of us a trip to go down there. So I want to get down there. It was fun. It was completely different experience in California and stuff.
Yeah. Bring your swim trunks, man. Because the best way to do theme parks in the summer, if you're not a Floridian, here's the most pro secret, like Illuminati tip you'll ever get. All right, it's you go to the park from rope drop to about 11 a.m., maybe 10. You go back to your hotel, change over to your swim trunks, get a frozen beverage, go to the pool till about sundown, change back over, and then go back to the park. And you do that the entire time you're in Florida, and you're going to have a 1,000 time better experience.
Okay. All right, cool. Now, Kaitlyn, before we go, are you excited for Epic Universe?
Oh, I'm so excited. My friend's been giving me a little of the inside scoop for it just because she kind of works in that world. So she's like been saying you're going to be blown away by it. And she's hoping that they'll get like an early on experience and that she can bring me. And I would freak if I got an early access to that.
Nice. Yeah, I think my favorite area, well, like going into it, I don't know for sure. It might change when I get there, but Dark Universe is probably the thing I'm like, okay, that's dope. I want to see that, so We'll see. But yeah, interesting. Slimer, what's your favorite land going into that? It could change, by the time you actually experience it, but.
Yeah. By the time I get there, it could be Super Mario World or Harry Potter, but right now it's Dark Universe. Kaitlyn, what about you?
Oh, Harry Potter World for sure.
Yeah.
I am a diehard Harry Potter fan, so it'll be hard for anything to ever top Harry Potter for me.
I think that Harry Potter Land might be the new king of theming once it opens. I think there's a
Interesting.
possibility for it. I think it has the potential. We haven't seen any, but I don't know. I just have a hunch that when it comes to theming, Universal wants Harry Potter, the IP, to be like that at the top of the hill when it comes to how immersive a land can be. And I think they want to keep that tradition with this new land. I just have a feeling. It's an intuition. It could be Dark Universe, but I don't know. I don't think so. I think they want to maintain that tradition with the brand. And I mean, look, it has a lot to live up to. I mean, Diagon Alley is still probably the best themed land in Orlando. Star Wars and Pandora included. I mean, like it's right up there. Kaitlyn, would you agree? Do you think that Diagon Alley, even though it's old as hell, still keeps up?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I was there on Sunday, and I mean, I cannot go to Universal without walking through there. It's truly like I think they just did it so well. And even with how the book describes it, like they, I think, took from the movie, but also the book. And they did that for both of the Harry Potter lands in both parks. So I think it would be doing a disservice if with, Epic Universe, they didn't do the same level that they've given us for the current two.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think they will. I think J.K. Rowling too is involved with that whole thing, and she's really a stickler with that kind of quality. And I think I think it's going to be. I think the Potter thing, I'm not even worried about it at all. I think it's going to be absolutely incredible. You know what I'm saying? Dark Universe to me looks pretty dope, though. I'd seen some of like the model. Did you guys see that model? From I obviously didn't see it in person, but it looks cool. I mean, the pictures I've seen and everything of it. So we'll see. We will see. Slimer, real quick, I want to ask you too. You caught that Ghostbusters drone thing?
Yeah.
I was like, the first time I saw it, oh god, Slimer, you must be going
back. Yeah. So for those you don't know what OG's talking about, the new Sensational Symphony water light drone fireworks show that they have over there, they use the drones to put up these images of really popular Universal IP, and one of them is Ghostbusters. I went through the logo up there. I got a little excited. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Now, what's funny is go ahead and watch it and tell me it doesn't feel and sound like Sensational Symphony, a Walt Disney production.
Interesting. Are there so we have actual video of this stuff, it's not just images?
Yeah, so it looks like they actually did an annual pass holder preview, or media pass preview. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but if you go on like JoJo's World, for example, he was there. He talks about his experience watching it. He actually liked it, and you can find several other vloggers putting up their footage of it. But yeah, it's a done deal. I think tomorrow is when it opens to the public. So yesterday must have been either media pass or annual pass holder, but they really waited until the last minute to do this thing. And I think it's because they didn't want YouTube and Instagram to be flooded with video footage of this.
Yeah.
I think they want people to go there and experience it for themselves, because the whole show takes up the entire lagoon, which is panoramic. And if you have a camera that's only getting 16:9 or 4:3, if you're holding it vertically, I mean, you're not going to get the entire effect of the experience. So I think wait until the day before is a good call.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great franchises represented in that show. A lot of great music, a lot of John Williams. So it's going to be. Yeah, I think I'm optimistic about it. I think it's going to be good. That's one area I think Universal has sort of been behind a little bit with Disney. I think the shows are overall better at Disney. But this might change. This might change the perception here. This might be that show that's like, oh, wow, okay, this is different. This is on Disney's level. And like you were saying, you could it even seems like from what you've seen a Disney production, right? So,
Kaitlyn, do you think Universal's swinging for the fences here? Do you think there's going to be a time where Universal, or do you think they're already there, like where they've already reached the point where they're doing some nighttime shows better than Disney? They're doing summertime experiences, how they accommodate the guests, things like that. What's Universal just night and day doing better than Disney for you right now?
I mean, I think Universal is definitely prioritizing the full experience, like from beginning to end. They're wanting people when they walk in to just be impressed with everything. And whereas Disney, I feel like, is kind of lacked in that area. So, I mean, I don't know if Universal will ever top Disney just because Disney is so large and massive, but with the new attractions that have been coming out with both parks, I've definitely been way more impressed with Universal. The one thing I think they're lacking, and I'm not sure if they'll ever get better at, is the customer service. And for me, that's like, that plays a huge, part in your overall experience at the parks. Disney employees, it's so strict. So you're never going to see them in a bad mood. Whereas I've dealt with some pretty nasty Universal employees, which I get it. That's a tough job. But I think if Universal could really hone in on that, it would just up them and almost be at the same level as Disney for the overall experience.
Yeah, and I think if Universal got more into like everybody attractions, what I mean by that is like, because even Epic Universe, there's a lot of steel giants, and a lot of people can't go on those or don't want to go on those. If Universal can get more like Pirates of the Caribbean style stuff where your grandma can go on it and your 5-year-old can go on it, those more of that kind of thing, I think they would really give Disney more of a run for their money, because right now I think Universal skews a little younger. Like young adult, because of the nature of a lot of their attractions. But if they can tap into that like everybody market like a little better, I think that they could really do some damage. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We're only a year away. Oh, go ahead, Kaitlyn.
You saying that, so a lot of my friends, like we've talked about this, like how Universal I feel like is very much young adults. You kind of go until you get sick going on the rides. And they were saying how Universal doesn't ever want it to be like, oh, like bring all your little kids here. It's like child friendly, elderly friendly, which, maybe the higher ups of, Universal don't think that. But from the employee side, they said they love that it's mainly young adults. It's a lot of roller coasters, just a very different style and vibe from Disney. So I do agree with you. If they made it like overall, like family friendly, everyone can go and there's something for everyone, I think they'd be at the same level. But from like the employee perspective, none of them want that. They want to be the park where it's mainly the younger adults.
That's interesting. And I can see the benefit of that too, though. Like, because you're Universal, you're going to want to have a different kind of angle to this than Disney, right? You don't want to become Disney because then why even go to Universal? I can go to Disney, right? So I can kind of understand that. I can see that point where it's like, if we're going to be in this market together with Disney, we have to we have to be different. We can't just be Disney 2.0. So that makes sense. Absolutely. That absolutely makes sense.
I even think of Halloween Horror Nights, like you will never catch Disney doing something like that at all. So I think the Halloween Horror Nights aspect and just their other, Mardi Gras, that's very much young adult, older people style. Whereas, Disney's, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween, very child friendly, so I think that will always put Universal kind of in the category of like, this is for young adults.
Yeah, absolutely. Kaitlyn, I definitely want to have you back on the show after you go to Disneyland. I would really want to pick your brain about your first experience. So that's interesting. That's in about a week, you said?
Yeah, I'm going on Thursday.
Oh, so okay. Okay. All right. She just missed George, Slimer. She just missed him.
Yeah, he's over there right now, actually. And I'll be in Disneyland in August.
Nice.
So everybody's going to Disneyland this year.
Yeah, exactly. So, Slimer, I'll start with you. If you let everybody know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Hey, OG, thanks again for having me on. And Kaitlyn, thanks for being a wonderful guest tonight. You can find me right here in Orange Grove 55, and on X, you can find me on Slime Score 84.
There he is. And Kaitlyn, thank you for coming on. If you can remind everybody where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You can find me on all platforms at Kaitlyn Aurelio. The last name's Aurilio.
There she is. And everybody at home, comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we discussed today. Disney World in the heat, in the summer, D23 Expo, Epic Universe, nighttime shows, everything we discussed. We would love to hear from you. Comment down below. The shooting gallery going away. That's another one. Comment down below. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG55.
Like iced tea, I'm OG. Like iced tea, I'm OG. Like iced tea, I'm OG. I'm demon like IT. Got more juice than high C.